in Baltasund, Unst, the most northerly isle, a glow of orange on the southern horizon, as though Yell is on fire. A shepherd's hut is silhouetted like a black cardboard cutout. An old sheep chews the cud alone by the fence, too lacking in energy to join the herd, reflecting these low-energy days of midwinter, a time to rest and recuperate. How different it was in midsummer, this most northern isle teeming with life and energy in the perpetual daylight, the puffins burrowing in sandy cliffs alongside baby rabbits, gannets gossiping noisily in their huge colonies on the cliffs of Hermaness, the ever-curious fulmars checking it all out as they swoop past the cliffs. Nothing epitomised the summer frenzy more than the Arctic terns, the Tirricks, ever active, rearing their chicks for the long flight to Antarctica, screaming at invaders to their colonies as they swooped, delivering a painful peck to anyone who got too close. So beautiful, so graceful, so delicate looking with their forked tails, and yet so fierce and feisty. Thank you. So just to introduce the Damore to you very quickly, I'm kind of attracted to it. Both, I think it's got a really lovely ancient-y sort of sound to it, and also it reminds me a little bit of the Hardanger fiddle from Norway. Small enough audience everyone can see actually. It's really resonant, as you can hear, because it's just tuned to one chord. And can you see underneath, we've got these little strings that I don't play, but they just resonate when I play, so it just gives it that kind of echo sound. And yeah, I kind of love it as well because it's, I'm very definitely a viola player, not a violinist, and I love the fact it lets me kind of refract that music a little bit and bring it across into that other world, so it's great fun. It's great fun to tune it too. If I'm not even going to touch it anymore today, because yeah, getting those exactly the same as those, it's a lot of fun. So we're going to move one island further south now, and up on the top of a hill in Yell, the next island south from Unst, lies a house called the Wilderness, exposed to the wind and the elements. So this is where my good friend Margaret Robertson's granddad lived, immortalised in this tune by Margaret. And Margaret actually now leads Hjalti Bon Hoga, which is actually the official fiddle band for the Edinburgh Tattoo. So anyone who's been to Tattoo or seen them on telly, Margaret is in charge of the bunch of fiddlers. And we followed that by Shaela, which is real by Margaret, describing the light summer mist that drifts over the island. This feels really thin after the other one. Okay. Lovely tune that actually, isn't it? There's lots and lots of energy in it. It's really fun to play. So we're going to have one more Shetland tune before we start moving further away. But first of all, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this gallery and the work Rosemary's doing here, but it's really lovely having all this art brought into the village and people being able to do their shopping and come up and browse and all the rest of it. And this particular group of artists, I think I'm right in saying they're all actually students at the University of the Highlands and the Islands in Shetland, and they've got together to form a collective and display and sell their art. So everything in here is for sale. So if you want to have a browse around after the performance and you feel tempted to part with cash, obviously buying original pieces of art isn't cheap, although it's a lovely investment to have. If you don't have the kind of money that these take, there are, for this particular set of pictures, some postcardy prints just through there, and I think they're only £1 each. So if you want to have a little souvenir to take away from that, then that's something you can maybe afford more easily than buying the originals. But you know, if you're wanting a nice piece of art for home, go for it. And Rosemary, I think, is dealing with sales from that. But importantly, just tell people in the village that this space exists, and you know, even if you don't want to buy, it's a lovely space to visit, and you know, just come and see what's around. So yeah, so we'll just finish this first little set with Sleep Soon in the Morning, which is a really famous Shetland tune. Although I've seen a lot of debate online about whether it's really a Shetland tune or an Irish tune, I'm not sure. But it's played a lot in Shetland. And Nordic viola, actually, a lot of the work that I do is actually crossing over between traditional and I hate using the word classical really because it's not really classical, but that kind of, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, classical stroke contemporary music. And this is actually an arrangement by Judith Weir, who I think I'm right in saying is, I've got to get always right now, she is still master, even though she's a woman, of the King's music. That's very important, you need to get that right now. So I dare say we'll be hearing something from her for the coronation actually, but here we go in Judith Weir in Shetland. You're worried that you'd be noisy, but...
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I think he wakes up now a bit.
Okay, so the Ballad of Sinklars Visa from Norway, composed by Edward Storm in 1781, tells the story of a historical battle at Kringen in Norway, which took place in 1612. In this battle, a group of Norwegian farmers ambushed a company of Scottish soldiers. One of the officers was Captain George Sinclair, who were on their way to fight for Sweden against Norway in the Kalmar War. The ambush took place where the Scottish soldiers had to pass along a narrow way bordered by steep slopes on one side and a river on the other. The Scots were heavily defeated. The tune is popular right around the North Atlantic, and especially with Shetland's neighbours, the Faroe Islands, where it was famously recorded by folk metal band Tirrick, singing Norwegian lyrics with a pronunciation that may be described as guttudensk or street Danish. And it's typical for singing Danish ballads in the Faroe Islands. In the Faroe Islands, ballad singing often goes hand in hand with a traditional chain dance where they all join in a group, link arms, and apparently step 2 steps to the left and 1 to the right, and so the circle progresses, which maybe we could try if we move the chain. And before that, we'll actually play a piece called Aegtestand, which is an old Faroese hymn. And I don't know whether anyone's ever heard any Hebridean psalm singing, but the style of the melody really reminds me of that, with the really sort of angular melodies and the free rhythms. And I just realised I'm on the right, so I'm just going to swap over. Here we go.
summer days in Shetland and the Faroes, revelling in the simmer dim. I remember a glorious sunny day in Sandoy in the Faroes after days of thick, velvety, silent fog. Just as in Hermanus in Shetland, we braved Skua Alley as they dive-bombed us and enjoyed the vibrating dive of the snipe and the whoop of the oyster catchers, with the golden plovers crying at the thought of us standing on their nests, dragging a wing to draw us away from their chicks. And there they were, out to sea, the rocky hulks of Coulter and Hester, the colt and the horse.
Unique, Shetland, by Jamieson. You are a crisp, cold day, making me shiver from my nose to my toes as I walk over the hill. You are the peery, colourful puffin standing in its cliff-edged burrow, waiting for its mum to return with its dinner. You are the purple heather, clinging beautifully to the hill as I run and roll down it. You are the shiny silvery moon and the twinkling stars, shining in the pitch-black sky out of my bedroom window. You are the cold, wet sand, getting washed by the stormy grey sea. You are the playful, snow-white lambs, jumping around in the green park, making the most of the long midsummer. You are the beautiful green mirror dancers, dancing across the midnight sky, putting on a show for those below. You are the smooth round pedals, getting kicked around by the sea, waiting to be picked up and taken home by me. You are the fierce, lashing wild wind throwing up seawater on our windows while we're trying to sleep. You are an interesting rock pool, bursting with creatures like crabs and starfish, waiting for me to come and explore you. You are the elegant, elusive orca, gliding through the deep blue sea, all the way from Iceland to come and visit me. two really, really lovely tunes, and they were actually written by our two youngest composers in the whole programme, because Nordic Viola really enjoys working with young people and just sharing the cultures between them. And back in lockdown, we thought, how can we carry on doing this work and keep our connections with the Faroes and Iceland and Greenland? And we actually ran a competition which we called a Sea Stories competition, where we did an online workshop which was attended by quite a few people from the Faroes. We're slightly unlucky with our timing here because we were just coming out of lockdown, but at that point actually the Faroes had just gone into another lockdown. So our biggest group of attendees were actually the Faroe Islands kids, plus somebody from Dunblane, Ellie, came along, and we also got entries from Greenland and a few Shetland ones. So the last tune I just played is called Cumliewick, which is by a young Shetlander, Victoria Byrne, and the first one was a young Faroese girl, Ronja Gaard Hansen. I'm sure you'll agree they're lovely tunes they sent us. And do we have any knitters in the audience, apart from me? Anyone else going to own up to knitting? Excellent. Have you heard of the Jamiesons, wool producers? Well, that poem, Isla Jamieson, is actually the daughter of Gary, who's one of the I don't know what he calls himself, director probably, and Katherine, his wife, so who we were lucky enough to meet last time we were there. So, and she was 9 when she wrote that poem, which is seriously impressive, actually. So yeah, it's a delight to feature their work. Okay, so on to something lively again. I'm just going to where I am. Okay, so yeah, so Shetland's links with the far north run deep, as I'm sure you're starting to gather from hearing the selection of music here. For centuries, these island nations have been joined by trade and fishing and sharing their common cultures. The whalers would travel up to Greenland and would step ashore with their fiddles and join in with a polka or two with their Inuit counterparts. So this polka set that we've got here includes Haki's Polka, which is by Shetlander Tom Anderson, who really was responsible for the revival of Shetland fiddle music. And it's dedicated to the Norwegian King Haakon. And then we've got 2 Greenlandic polkas. I'm going to have a shot at saying the first one. This won't be fluent, I'll try. Isika Mamimka Klarlika is the first one. It's a mouthful. I actually haven't found out what that means yet. And Lilla Martin, which I actually collected when I was in Greenland on my own. David's surname is Martin, so I thought I'd bring in a Greenlandic tune with his name in it back. So here we go, a little polka set for you. We're quite happy. You might want to start warming up now because we really want some clapping along with the last set. So if you do want to clap or tap your feet, feel free. There's not enough room for dancing there. Here we go. isle, our beautiful, bountiful mother, where are your fortune and fame, freedom and virtue of old? All things on earth are transient. The days of your greatness and glory flicker like flames in the night, far in the depths of the past. Comely and fair was the country, crested with snow-covered glaciers, azure and empty the sky, ocean resplendently bright. Here came our famous forebears, the freedom-worshipping heroes, over the sea from the east, eager to settle the land, raising their families on farms in the flowering laps of the valleys. Hearty and happy they lived, hugely content with their lot. Icelandic tunes arranged by the composer Thorkell Sigurðsson. I love them. They're a different flavour, aren't they, to Shetland tunes, and it's just like that darkness of the landscape kind of creeps into the music somehow. So we're going to bring you back to Shetland, but not that you'd know it from listening to this, because it sounds very, very Icelandic. Starka vena vestelia, obedia, obedia. Starka vena vestelia, obedia monja. Stala stoita stonga hraya, it says du da bunchka baya, it says du da bunchka baya, litra mai vidrengi. I love that flavour of that old language of Norn. And some of you will probably recognise this piece of music. It is the Unstboat song, which is one of the oldest Shetland tunes. After a quick round of the North Atlantic, we're safely back in Shetland, and we're pretty much going to stay there, but with a little bit of flavour of something else, just to finish in a minute. Before that, just wanted to say thank you very much to anyone who's donated online, and the proceeds will go half and half to a CD that Nordic Viola are planning. It won't be just us, it will be the bigger group of 4 to 6 players. With some really exciting work on that. So I put little cards on your seats, and there's 2 websites on that, one of which is Sargs and Seascapes, which a lovely lady at the back, Paula Stevens, who's another artist, helped us with and painted some wonderful paintings that went with that. And the other half of the money will go to Ability Shetland, which actually works to do lots of work with enabling people to create things, do things, and just generally good force for nature up in Shetland. So if you haven't donated and you would like to donate, and it's not compulsory at all, don't feel you have to if you don't want to. There's either a little doggy bowl thing on the table there, or this being the one age, we do also have a card machine. And obviously enjoy the art, browse it. If there's anything here that does interest you, there's lip prints down there as well as the postcards through there for something a little bit cheaper. Talk to Rosemary about those. I'm sure she's downstairs. Browse the shop, obviously. And there's a few little things of Orla's art on there if you're interested in looking at those as well. And either me, David, or Orla will help you with those. So we're going to finish with a set of tunes from Shetland, but they're very much influenced by the travels of the sailors. And just to get you in the mood, and since it's not that long since Christmas, I'll just take a little tale from William Heinesen, who is a very famous author, artist and musician from the Faroes. This is a story about the smuggling of Faroe brandy during the last century and the beginning of this. There were a lot of fishing of cod at the Faroe banks by smacks and sailing ships from Shetland. They could get supplies of corn brandy cheaper, as they could here in Shetland, and they also smuggled tobacco, which I believe was cheaper still, cheaper than they could get it here. This old fellow who told the story, he had a keg of brandy, which was an earthenware jar, which would have held about 3 to 4 gallons, and towards the end of their cod fishing season, when it got a bit dark at night, the smacks used to come in under cover of darkness and land their brandy and tobacco on some of the offshore islands, and then stand off again until daylight, and then appear on the horizon for the benefit of the customs cutter, which was usually around. Of course, they would be searched and nothing of any significance would be found, and then, when the coast was clear, they would go back to these offshore islands and pick up whatever they had. This old chap stayed in Firth, which was about 20 miles from the place where the brandy was finally brought onto the mainland from an offshore island. He set off in the dark of night to fetch it with a kishy on his back, which is a straw basket made for carrying peats and things. He picked up the keg of brandy, and on his way home he was going up along the side of the Dales Lees, which is a steep hill with deep gullies running down. He saw a light on the road. Everybody knew everybody else, so if you're seen at night carrying a keg in a basket, everybody would have known about it. So he left the road and went up one of those steep hills and hid while this horse and gig went past. When he got the basket back on his back again, he broke the rope that secured it around the shoulders, and the keg disappeared down the steep gully and he couldn't find it in the dark. Frightened that it collided with a stone and broke into 1,000 pieces, but anyhow he groped around in the dark, and using matches or whatever he could to get a light, he found a thing. It was halfway out of sight until a bog. He got it out, got it back into the kishy, and repaired the rope, carried it home, and built it into his peat stack. This, I would think, would illustrate the lengths to which folk would go to get a supply of brandy for Christmas. And we definitely need some clapping along at the end of this. Here we go.